Alright, so it's gonna get really hot today. So I prepped up 3 GoPros and I stuck them onto some iron bars, flat bars, and after I'm done here doing this, I'm going swimming. And I'm gonna see if I can't place those GoPros in some real cool places underwater and leave them until the batteries run out. And then see if I can get some real cool underwater footage. And as well, I also prepped up 3 trail cameras, and I'm going to go on a bigger swim around the far end, and I'm going to place these cameras where I know the bears should be walking and see if I can't confirm my suspicions that there's just no bears here. It absolutely does not make sense. Eagles are gobbling everything up on the shore. There's dead salmon all over the place. There's live salmon there to be caught in shallows, and it's really bizarre, right? A year ago, 26 different bears, including some real big old ones, and I haven't seen a bear or even a pile of shit. Go figure. So anyway, yesterday's knowledge drop. Yesterday's for all of you people whose brains fire and you actually listen to my words. You will realize exactly what's going down from what I shared with you yesterday, right? And there's obviously going to be there's always a handful of people in every herd that just doesn't get it. It's just like when, you know, I used to read this, I read this book about this hitman years ago, and he always said that they say the best way to do it was go into a crowded place, use the loudest gun you could, let it rip. And there would be at least 30 different versions of what went down, 30 different descriptions, because people just don't pick up what's before them. But anyway, we're talking about a man who's battling cancer, a senior. He's got a family, and I am not going to be a pussy, a whining little pussy, and demand he give me what we want right now. In time, it's coming. I was excited to hear from him again, and he did drop a good solid chunk of information on me. And like I said in yesterday's video, you need to ask yourself some questions first before I get what I have received delivered to you. But more importantly, he's got 34 hours of conversation he's got to go through on his own time while battling cancer, while having a family, while having possibly limited time left, and do that for us for nothing in return. And basically what he shared with me so far isn't even an eighth of the information he's got to go through. And like I said yesterday, to be clear, what he has to do is he has to go through all that information and make sure that the source is not revealed. Okay? So anybody out there who's sniveling, you're a pussy. Snivellers are pussies. I've had to eat a lot of shit in my lifetime since I was a little kid. And I learned at an early age to never show emotion. Don't be weak. Don't be a pussy. Suck it up. Carry on. Do what you can do with what you got. And not whine. So there you go. I got zero patience for impatience. How's that for something to say? But I have zero respect for impatience. And especially whiners. I wish I could clean up all the whining pussies and just delete them forever and get them out of our way. I know, just ignore them. But when you get your inbox inundated with knee-jerk, weak-minded pussies who can't listen, who can't make sense on their own, it can be frustrating. Especially when you got so much shit on the go, right? Alright, so what else can I share is, if you would, before we get the rest of our information to us to deliver to you, I would encourage you, if you have the interest or your curiosity, to do your own due diligence and look into the possibility that China and Russia, naming 2, successfully crossed humans with animals in the past, all right? So I have heard word from various scientific sources that that is true, that the sick bastards successfully did that in the past, okay? So there's a little bit of a tidbit to drop on you all before we share or receive more to share with you. You're going to have to look into some of these things so that you can chew on the DNA analysis that's going to be revealed. Okay? If you think rationally, you'll understand that makes sense. All right? You got to gently gently delivers something to a herd of human beings so they don't freak out, lose their shit, laugh, run, scream, cry, whatever. You have to ask yourself why. Why are we being denied the truths of these people, and amongst many other truths? Why? Really think about it. And also at the same time, I want you to see if you can find out if it's fact that humans have been successfully crossed with animals in the past. Look into China and Russia, okay? And then hopefully, when we get what is delivered by our scientists who have over 3,000 DNA samples, it'll be easier for you to wrap your head around it, because it's not going to be easy. Okay? It's just not. Now, what do we got? More voices are going to be heard through me. More brave people are going to be heard through me at this brave group surrounding the round table of knowledge. All right. I don't know if this has been read before. It's not marked as read, but it's titled Almost Shot a Bigfoot While Hunting. Hey Steve, just called me Trace. About a year ago I went deer hunting by myself for the first time of that season. I'd usually go with my buddy in case I shot one and needed help dragging it out. Anyways, like you've said before, I've been out there many times, but something about this time felt different while I was walking into the woods and to my stand. I just felt uncomfortable and kind of on edge. I made it to my stand and was there a couple hours not seeing much at all, which was really confusing because every other time I went out, I would at least see babies and or their mamas walking around. My stand was located looking over a field with tall grass and other heavier patches of taller grass in it, where the deer would bed down. Also had trees all around me. I have pictures if you'd like me to send as well. So I sat and waited for about an hour or so, and this was in the evening, so it got dark around 7 o'clock. So I decided to start heading down as soon as I couldn't see through my scope clearly anymore. So I climbed down about an hour later and started walking back, and that feeling came back again. So I made sure I had a round loaded in my .308 rifle, and my sidearm I carried for coyotes and some peace of mind. I made it maybe 100 feet away from the stand when I heard something behind me, which really freaked me out, because that's where I just come from. I turned around with my headlamp on, and I seen it right behind the tree where my stand was. My whole body went numb, and I remember saying to myself, I knew it. I always was a believer, but I didn't want to believe while I was hunting. This thing was massive, and all I could think was, I only have 3 bullets of my .308 and my 9mm. So I just shouted out, I'm not here to mess with you, so just let me go back to my truck and I'll be gone. It felt like I was standing there shaking for hours, but I learned later it was only maybe 30 seconds. Eventually, I just started backing away slowly while still aiming at it. And the farther I got away, the less I could see him because my headlamp wasn't super strong. All I know is I backpedaled the whole way back to my truck, which is a good 3/4 of a mile, keeping my head on a swivel the whole time. When I got back to my truck, my clothes were soaked from sweating so much from fear, and I immediately put it in drive and called my buddy to tell him what happened. Luckily, he didn't call me crazy since we used to talk about it all the time. But anyways, sadly, I haven't been back to that area ever since. It sucks because it was a great spot for deer and very peaceful, but I'm keeping my promise of not messing with them things again. It's definitely kept me out of the woods this year in general, but hopefully I'd get the courage to go to another spot next year. And welcome to the Club of No Return, man. Okay, Trace, I got your real name. I got your back. I won't share that. And, yeah. I experienced basically almost the same walk back to the truck. Mine was, as it was getting darker, dead, sickly, silent after that thing hid from me. After I looked up and it was above me on the rock waiting for me. And it was a thick gravel road, old gravel road, power line road actually, and the bushes were encroaching on the sides of it, so it was tight. And all I could do was, I faced the side of the road it was on, and I walked so slow. It was brutally painful. It took forever to get to the truck, but I felt that I needed to hear if this being, this person or whatever it was going to crash through the brush and get ahead of me and try to grab me or jump me in the on the road. So, because you can't panic and run, right? You'll make too much noise and you'll miss what's really going on around you. But anyways, babbling. What I can say is I can relate to that walkout after seeing something like that. It sucks dick, right? So, but, I mean, you've seen all the places I go alone and film from, right? I've shared with you from here to the Yukon, I believe, being remote, alone, in the middle of nowhere, and with friends, too. And I haven't let it ruin it for me. But, yeah, same as you all admit, I have a handful of places in the coastal mountains of British Columbia where I used to go all the time, and I just don't go anymore. Because I don't need the grief, right? But, as everybody has explained to us clearly, these beings can show up anywhere, anytime, even after you've been on that property for generations. Some voices up there. Thanks for sending that in, man. And make sure your buddy sees this video too, alright? Alright, this is titled Sabe. Hello, Steve. I was working alone down a road that parallels some thick woods, and when I heard movement in the brush, I stopped and looked towards the noise. To my absolute horror, a huge black wolf-looking head came out of the brush, and it was looking at me. I don't know if it was on 2 legs or 4, but it was taller than I was. I was only 10, so 4.5 feet or so. Suddenly it came bursting out of the woods towards me, and I thought I was dead. I don't know what happened at that point, but obviously it didn't grab me. All I can remember from that part is that it was in my face, and then it wasn't. My mom remembers seeing me running home with a look of terror, so she met me outside. She knew something bad had happened, but didn't know what it was. She says I was shaking uncontrollably, and I wet myself and kept saying, "A werewolf just tried to take me." She says that she doesn't know what I encountered, but I was a tough kid who was always outside and wasn't prone to making up stories. She says the next day I brought a book home from the school library titled Meet the Werewolf and became obsessed with anything werewolf related. Itchy nose. I wouldn't go outside for a long time after that, even when all the other kids were outside. We moved the next year to a city 100 miles away, and I got back to normal again. I moved back to the same rural town when I was 18 and have lived here ever since. It's a small town on Rend Lake in Jefferson County, Illinois. I know what I saw, and I'll never forget his face, as it wasn't a dog. I go into the woods quite a bit alone, and sometimes I get a lot bit worried. But I also always carry a gun just in case. Be safe alone when in rural areas, because these dogman things are real. My late wife had a daytime encounter with what she called a 7-foot-tall black werewolf standing on 2 legs in 2001, just about 5 miles from where I had my encounter. The only difference is that she was driving and had the relative safety being in a car. It proved to me that they do exist and are in the area. So at least I know to be careful when in the woods, instead of being like everyone else who don't have a clue until they're face to face with one. It's scary to know they're real, but I think it's better to be aware of them, so I know to take precautions when in the woods, and I tell anyone who will listen, despite being laughed at by some. But those who know me best know that I'm not crazy, and I do not make up stories so they believe me. I think telling them will keep them out of harm's way, or at least make them be a little more cautious about being out alone. Also, my uncle had a Bigfoot encounter in '81 while in the outskirts of the Shawnee National Forest. He never went back and is afraid to be outside after dark if there are any woods around. He's 60 now, and he's still scared of the things that don't exist. He's a huge guy himself, but is terrified of seeing that thing again. The funny thing is that he actually laughed at me when I told him about the werewolf-looking thing that almost got me. I think that he thought I was joking at first, but I told him, just like that Bigfoot that you imagined, and he changed his tune. He said it was probably a Bigfoot that I saw, but it was most certainly not. It was a giant black wolf that was taller than me and not a gorilla-looking thing. And there you go. Okay, Mike, appreciate it, man. And How many people does it take to have that description before people start listening, right? Isn't that there's a bizarre one. How many people does it take? It'd be funny if you could take somebody who absolutely denies any of this shit, take them aside, look them in the eye and go, okay, well, what's your number? What's your number then? If what I saw and I'm sharing with you honestly isn't true, and you won't take it as truth, then how many of me do you need? Do you need CNN to blurt it out to you on the fucking shitbox TV? You know what I mean? It's amazing. I wonder what the number is for a dumbass to accept. Okay, well, you've had 50,000 people share with you the same story from around the globe, unrelated, haven't spoke with each other. Are you going to take that as fact yet? No? Something's wrong with your ass, right? Also, we had our scientists yesterday confirm, yes, they have the DNA. They haven't shared with me the DNA results of that one yet, but they're gonna, of the dog head, dog face, what they refer to them as. There's DNA now, and numerous sightings like yours. Unfortunately, right? I'm not down with those damn things, but there's no way out of it, so let's talk about it. Alright, it's gonna be too much sun here. Gotta move. The glare's gonna kill me, alright? So give me a second. Alright. A little bit of a better angle for me so far. The sun's really winging around, so. Encountering puzzles. Steve, I hope this finds you well wherever you may be. I appreciate you giving me more pieces, more to think about it. It's a shame that as we get around to openly discussing subjects as this, that the world seems to be falling apart. It's kind of shitty, isn't it? I've written this multiple times, but it never feels right, or at least by the time I fix punctuation and such, it doesn't sound like how I'd say it, or it goes too long, which it still will. I'm no writer, but I write this because over the last few years, listening to these and other stories, I've heard things that hit home hard. I'm a 39-year-old man who spent most of my life in the States around Lake Michigan, living in Michigan now. In 2017, I married a great woman, and we took our honeymoon in the mountains of North Carolina. I guess the first odd thing was while driving through the national park, well after dark, on 2 occasions, only minutes apart, we had, I suppose, coyotes run across the road in front of us, except I swear they looked like hyenas. Both times we looked at each other in disbelief. Later, we finally get to the road up to the cabin. It's dark. The road's narrow and steep, and I'm not sure where the cabin is actually at. I start heading up. I swore as the headlights swept through the forest, I saw something big and hairy and man-like stop and freeze. But it happened in a moment, so I forgot about it quickly. We find the place after a bit and pull in, sat there in the dark, scoping things out, and made our way in. I have no sense of smell, but over the next few days, the wife repeatedly said she smelled the worst smell of her life. I'm kind of fearless in the woods, so I'd go walk around the place looking for what it could be. Once, as I was checking the garbage cans, I thought I'd seen someone at the start of the driveway. Turn and look again, and nothing. Checking the house during the day, I found what looked like a Bigfoot print by the deck, but it was too big, so I forgot about it. So the story actually starts here. We went out for an early trip on the second to last day there. Came back early afternoon. She was tired and took a nap while I went walking for a waterfall that was supposed to be close. Up to this point, we were the only people around other than folks living on the road at the bottom of the hill, whose dogs barked wild every night, and the people be hollering. Actually had me worried the locals might not be friendly, but now I think other stuff is going on. As I walked, I was passed by other vacationers headed to the cabin. A few minutes later, I passed where they stopped, waved, and kept walking. The road went up and around them. As I'm walking, admiring the day, partly cloudy but sunny, small breeze, I came to a bush overgrowing into the road. Suddenly, an animal exploded from the other side and ran to the next overgrown bush, dipped underneath it and through, stood up, and took off. So fast it was almost a blur. When I first seen it, it was nearly my height, almost 6 feet, looked like an elk ass color-wise, but it had large legs. Not deer-like. Plus, when it went under the next bush, it got low and pushed itself back up like a man who was laying on his stomach would. I ran after it. When I got past that second bush, it was gone. The road went away straight, and by the time I got there, I should have at least seen it running. Nothing. No sounds like it went off to the side, nothing. And this is where it got creepy. The feeling was one I've only had a few times, if at all. I started to look around, knowing it has to be close. I'm thinking it's an elk or a bear or a hog. Has to be a normal thing. I got a knife on me. To my right is a steep drop to the creek. My plan was, if I get something coming at me, I can't fend off, I'm jumping to a tree off the cliff, and I'd be out of reach. So I creep forward. There's a bush ahead, and I see something hiding on the other side. I slowly stalk it, staying on the far side of it. As I get close and go around this bush, whatever is hiding moves around it as well. That's creepy. Sorry, I lost where I was reading. This is the side of the bush opposite the road was a cliff. I couldn't have hid like this thing. I couldn't have, sorry, I'm getting texts. This is the side of the bush opposite the road was a cliff. I couldn't have hid like this thing. As I got closer and about to pretty much look through the leaves, I heard in my head, "Don't do it, don't do it." Calm but stern. I slowly turn my head, and as I do, I see from the chest up a dark shape of a Sasquatch take a side step to his right and disappear behind a tree. I literally rubbed my eyes in disbelief. At that moment, I forgot all about the creature in the bush. I moved up trying to prove I see nothing. As I got to where I could see where this shape was, I hear a noise at the other bush. I turn and look and hear another noise behind me again. This happened for over a minute. I'd hear something, look and hear something somewhere else. I started to nearly panic, if I wasn't already. At this point, in order to leave, I'd have to go back past where this was happening. So I slowly walked further. I came to a T in the road, but both directions a dead end. I keep hearing noises, snaps, and rustlings. I light a smoke and observe. I see a deer-colored thing bolt across the road 30 yards away. 30 yards away. Deer-colored, but looked like a man running. He crossed the road, ran to the bush, and stopped. It didn't keep running. It hid. I don't know how long I stood there, but after a while the sound stopped. The weird feeling in the air ceased, and I slowly went back the way I came. I made my way back to the cabin and told the wife. Asked if she wanted to get back. She said no. I said, "I'm taking the pistol and to stay there with the doors locked." I hustled back that way, went off the road and up and found a trail. The trail went into a bush. That was a creepy coincidence. An eagle just went by behind me, and the shadow cast was long, and the long shadow went straight across the timber in front of me like this. It's like, whoa, what was that? The trail went to the bush. Inside the bush was like a room, space for a group of people to easily fit. Clean, nothing on the ground. I kept on walking. The trail took me where I was before at the T in the road, but about 80 feet above it. From there, it went up almost through a valley. I stood there looking. There's a rock outcropping that I was drawn to. I really wanted to go. Almost felt invited. I still can't describe the feelings that went on, but I thought of a conversation I had with the wife before we married. We watched a video of people dying on their honeymoons, accidents and whatnot. I thought about that and decided I didn't want to risk it. I've never not explored for any reason before, but I turned around and go back. That night, sitting on the deck, she says, "What's that?" I look and see a light in the treetops, not 30 yards away, but high in the tree. It wasn't in the sky. I walked off the porch to the side. Only thing I come up with was it was a porch light on the mountain, and we just weren't familiar enough to recognize it. The next day, I looked to see if that was the case, and it wasn't. We go home, and over the next couple weeks, I can't stop thinking about it. Somehow, I got on the BSRO and looked at report settings in the area. It had one in the area that was similar, so I kept reading. A few reports made me think that, yeah, a lot of weird shit happened, so maybe. Watch some Sasquatch Chronicles and I'd hear things that would make you go, whoa, that makes sense. So I tell the wife I think the weird animal encounter in North Carolina was a Bigfoot. I thought she'd divorce me. She looks at me and says, maybe. She goes on to tell me how she was hunting with a boyfriend in high school. She was alone at the spot, and at dark, a big, hairy monkey thing stepped out and walked down the tree line. No one believed her and made fun of her, so she never mentioned it again. She convinced me to tell another friend. He tells me his old boss would go elk hunting in Colorado, and him and the guide watched one walk in the valley below. First two people I told said a story right back. I've told numerous people by now, and I've gotten so many stories right back, several within miles of where I live now. I found a weird trackway in the yard in snow years back. Tracks 6 feet apart, bigger than my boots, that stopped and did not continue. Oh look, another one, right? How many times has that been reported? And how many of those douchebags would eliminate that story as soon as I read that? It's happening. Now I go back to thinking about running around the Nicollet National Forest as a kid with a spear. There were a couple of swamps that I remember running from after being freaked out. Now, one night I screamed for my grandpa because something was trying to get in my window. He said it was a bear sniffing around, but I vaguely remember that face was not a bear. What woke me was something touching. He's gone now, so it's just a faint memory. I've had buddies tell me seeing large dark things around the forest preserves around Chicago, not far from places you've read stories of. This stuff is real. People see things that many can't believe until they've experienced it themselves. I've had mine speak one other time. Driving home from work, I heard, "Stop, stop." I did as the car flew through a stop sign and would have T-boned me. I hope this makes sense. Proofread it, but my phone is acting goofy and making it hard to fix mistakes. Sorry if it's long, but I've left out things I wish I could better describe. Also, shot my first deer last year with my bow. Only a spike, but something I've wanted to do since a little boy. I missed a monster the day before Halloween due to a stick I didn't see, and that crushed me for a week. I bring that up because if I'm out in nature relaxed, I see loads of wildlife, but when I'm hunting, I always focused on the kill. This year I made it a point to stay calm and relaxed and mentally not give myself up. I've never seen so much as I did this year. The rut was amazing to watch from my blind. Take care, Steve. Do what you do. You got a like-minded friend in central Michigan. Call me Mr. D. Okay, man. Gotcha. Got your name. Appreciate you. That's quite the string of events you've experienced. So many, man. There's so many. And isn't it amazing? It's like where I live now. Well, I was living previously, too. The amount... I'm probably at 95% of talking to strangers about this topic here in this community and having feedback. 95% of the strangers I talk to about this topic have feedback with other experiences. Crazy, right? Meanwhile, other groups of people are hell-bent on thinking they need to acquire proof. I feel sorry. I honestly feel sorry for the people who are busting their asses trying to get proof. What a shitty place to be stuck. It just keeps you in that quagmire of not going forward. And I believe this channel is a strong example of that. We've kicked aside the need for so-called proof. We've kicked aside needing anybody to tell us, to confirm for us, as in somebody who's considered to be in some kind of place of authority. When all we need is the testimony of our brothers and sisters, and that's it, right? And then we move forward, which we have. And now look where we are. Now we're about to get the accurate, clear DNA explanation. But then look the hell out, because there's going to be some rabbit holes blowing wide open for every single one of you. All right? Anyways, man, thanks for that email. Email's back again. It was very well written. I found it easy to read, except for the text that I was getting in between, and then the shadows I keep seeing moving in this thick jungle around me. I'm sure it's eagle shadows, but still, I don't know. I heard those voices up in the timber. Whatever. I got splashes of fish behind me. I got enough going on around me to yank my attention away from you guys, which isn't hard to do sometimes. So let's get another one out, and then I'm going to go in that river. Werewolf or Dogman is the title of this email. Hello, Steve. I thought I saw a werewolf with 2 red eyes. Hold on a second. Getting back to the hyena description. The description of a hyena-like animal being seen ripping across the headlights is absolutely numerous in North America. Big time. And I also had a descriptive of something over the hood of a frickin' truck in north central West British Columbia, in a remote place near a popular fishing river. A man emailed me and reported that casually walking across in front of his truck in the headlights with that description, like a massive hyena type thing. So there you go. You guys seen something like that and you're scared to share it? Don't be scared anymore, all right? Share it. Hello, Steve. I thought I saw a werewolf with 2 red eyes, and now I believe from listening to your videos it was a dog man. Here's my story. Myself and my friend Sarah were driving from Calgary to Cranbrook via Fairmont Lake, April 2020, to retrieve our trailer. It was evening, about 9ish, but not quite dark, and we were about an hour from Cranbrook, before Fort Steele for sure, but not exactly sure where. We were driving up a hill/incline, and there was a drop down on the right-hand side into a field with some rocks, trees, and wetland type area. The lights from the car caught the red eye, something black, standing on 2 legs, quite tall, maybe 6 feet, leaning against and looking into an old tree stub fairly close to the road. It moved its left arm and shoulder as it turned its body to look at us. It didn't look like a dog, as it had shoulders and a waist. And as it turned, the headlights caught 2 red eyes and a head with a snout like a dog or a wolf. We didn't notice a tail, though. We both saw it at the same time and both shouted, "What the F is that, a werewolf?" Neither one of us are easily scared and enjoy wandering in the woods, etc., but this energy felt evil, and we had never encountered anything like it. We put the pedal to the metal and almost became airborne going up the hill. We saged that night and said a prayer for protection. Good work. We do that too. We could see it and feel those red eyes looking towards us. The next day we tried to figure out what it was we saw. We didn't think it was a Sasquatch because its body was slim, not very hairy looking, and not very tall, although we were looking down a bit on it. We wondered if it was a wolf or some big dog standing upright, but it didn't behave like a dog in those red eyes. There were no houses in the area either that we could see from the road. We both still felt we saw a werewolf, even though neither of us really believe they exist. It was definitely something strange, a hybrid of some kind, or something from another dimension. Love your videos, Gabby. Holy shit, Gabby. It's not that common for me to get a dogman sighting from Canada, on Western Canada, at all. I think we've had a few, but you're one of a very, very small handful that I've heard from around here. And I believe you saw what you saw. Thanks for sharing it. Alright, here's another short one, which is red. My name is Zach from Pipe Creek, Texas. Keeping it short. Thanks for sharing and doing what you do. I'm 29 and I've been blessed to live in the hills of Texas. I was 15 at the time, working about a mile to the bus stop. Walking about a mile to the bus stop around 6:30 a.m. I was halfway to the bus and out of nowhere, barely any light out, and to my left-hand side of a field, I heard what is best described as a baby crying and an old lady laughing. Ugh, it sent shivers down my spine. I let out an involuntary scream as well. I was frozen, movement-wise. I don't know how long the scream was, but was terrifying. I was told was a mountain lion, but I disagree. I've seen only one lion in 29 years in this valley, but thank you for sharing, and Merry Christmas, and be safe out there. I love this community. Now the scream heard, Texas. Add that to the stack. Man. Alright, what do we got here? Now, this one's fairly long. I'm going to do this one last one, and I'm going to get in the river. Got my radiator done on the truck yesterday. It was a pain in the ass, but I got it done, and I got a lot to do today, but tomorrow's the bigger day, slinging 500 rounds, bales of hay. I know what it wasn't, is the title of this one. Steve, my name is Justin Perry, and I'm from Spokane, Washington. That's eastern Washington State, all the way east by Idaho. Yes, you're free to use my name. 42 years old, and I don't give a damn what people think about me or my experience. I don't like calling it a story. The story implies that there is some fiction mixed with the fact. There's no fiction, only facts. I feel as though we are on a first-name basis, even though we've never met. As I've been following your channel for some time now, you're an outlet for us whom have had experiences with these amazing and frightening creatures. Mine happened around 20 years ago. I was in my early 20s. I can still recall that day as if it had just happened. I was training my new hunting dog, a beagle mix, who I named Peaches, female dog. It worked and it was unique. Who I had taken from the owner as he was abusing this tiny pup. Oh, good for you. He just happened to show up at a house I was at, set this puppy on the floor next to his chair. She didn't act like a normal pup. Should act. She was terrified. Sat there shaking, tail tucked between her legs. He proceeded to attempt to extinguish his cigarette on this puppy, who was barely 2 months old. Oh my God. How could you even share the airspace of a prick like that? What a dummy the shit out of that bastard. I did the only thing that needed to happen, and I scooped that dog up and told that MFing son of a bitch, this is my dog now. He tried to argue with me, but he left instead after I told him if he tried to take the dog back, I'd knock him out. Should have knocked him out anyway. Tie him to a tree in the middle of nowhere naked, cover his ass with molasses and raw cube steak, and just drive away. And that's more, you're talking my kind of language. She gave me 12 years of pure, unconditional love, joy, and loyalty. And hot damn, she would work the quail. Just say, find the birds. She would hit the ground running with her nose in the ground, flushing birds all day. I miss her more than most people I've lost, grandparents included. My pup and I were on Lane Mountain. I remember her being a pup still, maybe 6 months old, maybe 8 months old. At this point in time, I'd been hunting that area with my father for roughly 10 years. He knew most of the area extremely well. Side note, that's where I shot my first buck, 6x7 whitetail, and he was a tank. Took us half a day to get him out breaking trail through the high, deep snow. I shot him at about 10 yards with a 270 Ruger. Man, what an amazing animal. Sorry, back to my experience. The two of us happened to find an area that I've never been in. That in and of itself warranted further investigation. I was pretty much just letting her run around, getting used to the woods, and she was training me as much as I was trying to train her. Parked the car on the side of the logging road, and we started down the narrow path. There was some new growth pines, 8 to 10 feet tall, on either side of the trail. I was letting her run ahead a bit, and I would slightly whistle to keep her at her max distance. She would turn around, come prancing back. Yes, she had a prancing gait. It was the funniest and cutest damn thing ever. A couple turns later, she takes off, rounds the bend, but she wouldn't stop. She just kept going. When I saw her next, maybe a minute later, she was sitting in the middle of the trail, head cocked to one side, then she cocked it to the other side. She looked back at me, then looked forward again. Where my pup stopped, the trail took a 90-degree turn to the right, with the pine row blocking the trail ahead until you were at the turn. As I got to her, and from the corner of my eye, I caught sight of, well, I'm not sure, I know what it wasn't. Being an avid hunter and outdoorsman, I know my animals by sight, sound, and track. This wasn't a bear, as it appeared to be standing upright and moved silently in the upright. It wasn't a moose. Same colors, again, upright position. Whatever it was tall, dark, fur or hair, and was deadly quiet. Now, it was out of the corner of my eye, but whatever was there was there. I'm going to add that yes, the trail was bordered by small pines. It was thick at spots. That 90-degree turn, however, opened up into what was once a little clearing. It wasn't as populated with pines. Convenient, some might say. I say I don't give two shits what they think. Now, I didn't need to see it straight on, and it moved away so quietly it was eerie. I didn't hear anything, and I was max 20 yards from it. I didn't feel scared. I did, however, drop to one knee and shoulder the 12 gauge immediately. At the same time, thinking this is only going to piss the frickin' off if it does advance. I scooped my pup, walked back to the car. Here's the weird part. It wasn't until I got back to the car, I went to leave that car, that the car wouldn't start. It just turned over but wouldn't fire up. And that's when I had this overwhelming sense of dread and danger. The voice in my head said, "Don't look in the rearview mirror." I knew if I did, something would be there. I listened to that voice. After I hit the steering wheel a few times, she finally fired up and I sped out of there. Maybe the two are unrelated, I don't know. I will say the pucker factor on that was the max for me though. I've never been back to that part of the mountain. I'm not sure I could find it again. I know that area, and I know that area well. That's my experience. I'll forever remember that day as if it just happened. My favorite dog, that pup passed in 2014. I know it's true when they say all dogs go to heaven. Thank you for following me. Share my experience with you and the folks on here. I absolutely enjoy your channel and your apps. Keep up the good work, my friend. Quick little fun fact about Washington State. The state actually built a Sasquatch trap and made it illegal to kill one. Things that make you go, As for me, I'll always be a believer, even if I didn't see one. Best regards. Man, I'm hearing some weird shit today. Justin, thanks for that, man. Sorry, I'm pretty sure I read it smooth. I hope I didn't butcher it. My attention keeps getting yanked around. Anyway. Okay, I'm going to carry on. I'm going to get these cameras out. Throw the GoPros in the bottom first, then I'm going to take the quad farther up to another place. I'm going to swim across the river with the trail cameras, and I'm going to place them where I know the bears should be. And we'll see if they are here. Maybe they're just nocturnal. I don't know. Maybe it's just random deal of the cards where they're here, and every time I'm here they just aren't in view. I don't know. We'll see. Anyway, I will I'll be back shortly. Here's some random. So I was swimming around down the river, and I put some GoPros in the bottom, and I ended up downriver, and then I could have swore I saw something off color in the shadows on the right side of the bank, and I went to investigate, and sure enough, it's the camera that I lost a couple months ago. Yes! Got it back. Crazy. So I'll go see what's on that when I get back. There's a side note anyway for who all remember that little goofy story of me losing my fishing rig. Cool.